I remember the day I got that doll like it was yesterday. It seemed so innocent, a simple, old-fashioned gift. My mom thought it would be cute, Raggedy Ann, nothing to be afraid of. I was living alone at the time, in that small, cramped apartment. I didn't think much of it. Just set it on the bed and thought, what a strange gift. But then, things started happening. At first, it was small, a little off. You know when you think you've seen something move out of the corner of your eye? That's how it started. The doll, Annabelle, would be sitting one way, and when I'd look again, it'd be facing a different direction. Not much, but enough to make me wonder. I asked Angie, my roommate, if she'd moved it. She denied it, and I just thought I was imagining things until I wasn't. One day I came home and Annabelle was sitting on the bed with her arms crossed. I swear she was looking straight at me. We started finding these notes, handwritten on old, yellowing paper. We had no idea where they were coming from. "Help us," one said. "Help Lou," another one read. I thought it was a joke at first. I really did, but the handwriting, it wasn't any of ours. That was when I started feeling it, the fear. And then, blood. I came home one night and there she was again, Annabelle, sitting on my bed. But this time, it was different. She had these dark red stains all over her hands and chest, like blood. And it wasn't just a drop here or there. It looked like she'd been in something terrible. I froze, my mind raced. Was I going crazy? Was this a prank? But there was no way. It wasn't something we could have faked. I felt my heart pounding, something was wrong. Desperate, we reached out to a medium. She told us something that made my blood run cold. That doll was not just a doll. It was a vessel, a way for something darker to get closer. The spirit of a little girl, Annabelle Higgins, who had died near here years ago. But she wasn't alone. Something else was using her. I wanted to believe the medium was wrong. I wanted to believe it was just my mind playing tricks. But it felt real. Too real. Then there was Lou, our friend. He was the one who always said something felt off about Annabelle. He hated being near her. One night he came over to stay, and the next morning he was shaken. I've never seen him like that. He told us he had a dream, but it wasn't just a dream. Annabelle, the doll, climbed up onto his bed and started choking him. He woke up gasping like something had been pressing on his throat. And then the scratches, the deep bloody scratches down his chest. There was no way he could have done that to himself. That was it. I knew we were in danger. We contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigators. When they saw Annabelle, they didn't flinch. Ed looked me in the eye and told me this wasn't a little girl's spirit. It was a demon pretending to be one. It wanted something from us. It wanted to possess us. I felt my legs shake when he said that. The Warrens tried to take Annabelle with them, but even they couldn't escape its power. The car stalled. The brakes failed. The car kept swerving. They had to bless the doll just to make it stop. And when they finally took her to their museum, they locked her in a glass case. And they wrote a warning on it. Do not open, possessed. I still hear it sometimes. That feeling, like someone's watching you. If you ever come across an old doll or anything that feels wrong, trust your gut. Not everything that seems innocent is. I'll never forget Annabelle. And this is my worst nightmare, and I'll never forget it.
In 1977, in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Enfield, England, a haunting would unfold that would become one of the most infamous paranormal events in history. The Hodgson family, living in a modest house, would experience strange and terrifying disturbances that no one could explain. Was it the work of a malevolent spirit, or was something else at play? This is the true story of the Enfield poltergeist. The haunting begins, the first signs of activity. It all began on one ordinary night when Peggy Hodgson, a single mother, and her 4 children were at home. Strange noises filled the air, loud bangs, knocks on doors, and sounds of something moving. But it wasn't until the furniture began to move on its own that the family realized something was horribly wrong. The children reported hearing strange sounds coming from the walls and the unsettling feeling of being watched. But it wasn't until young Janet, only 11 years old, was thrown out of her bed that things took a dark turn. She and her siblings were terrified. Who or what was responsible for these paranormal disturbances? Scene 3. Paranormal investigators arrive. The investigation begins. Duration: 3 to 4 minutes. Narration: desperate for answers, Peggy reached out to the Society for Psychical Research. Maurice Gross, one of the leading investigators, arrived at the house and was immediately struck by the bizarre events taking place. Furniture moved across rooms and objects flew through the air with no explanation. But the most chilling moment came when Janet, the young girl, began speaking in a deep, guttural voice that wasn't her own. The voice claimed to be the spirit of a man named Bill Wilkins, who allegedly died in the house years earlier. But could a ghost really speak through a child? Maurice Gross and his team documented over 2,000 paranormal occurrences, enough to make anyone question reality. But some investigators would later claim that the events were staged. Could the children have been playing tricks, or was something truly supernatural happening? The evidence: photos, audio, and skepticism. The investigation captured shocking evidence, including photographs and an audio recording of Janet's voice, which sounded nothing like her own. The voice captured on tape was deep and malevolent, saying, "I'm the one who's doing it." One photograph taken by the team showed Janet seemingly levitating above her bed, her body suspended in mid-air. But was this proof of the paranormal? Or was it simply a trick of the light, or even a hoax? Skeptics have long argued that the children faked the disturbances and that the investigators were too eager to believe. Yet the sheer volume of evidence captured during the haunting remains hard to dismiss. Debunking or truth? While some experts believe the events were staged, many remain convinced that something extraordinary happened in the Hodgson home. The children, particularly Janet, were accused of faking the events for attention. Some even suggested that Janet may have been deliberately positioning herself to create the illusion of levitation. Yet, others argue that the sheer number of witnesses, including skeptical police officers and journalists, points to something far more disturbing. No one can truly say for sure whether the Enfield poltergeist was a hoax or a genuine haunting that defies explanation. The lingering questions. The Enfield poltergeist case remains one of the most intriguing and mysterious paranormal events ever recorded. Despite the skepticism, the evidence collected by investigators continues to fuel debates. Was it a real haunting, or was it all a carefully constructed hoax? Even today, more than 4 decades later, the story of the Enfield poltergeist continues to haunt those who hear it. The house may be quiet now, but the mystery remains unsolved. What do you believe? The next story begins. This story will make you speechless and gives goosebumps. This is the real pictures of the twin sisters. The story of the silent twins has haunted psychologists, paranormal researchers, and true crime fans for decades. Was it a unique psychological case or a tragic possession? Even now, June lives a quiet life. She rarely speaks of her sister. And when asked why Jennifer died, she gives only one chilling reply: because we had made a pact. Some stories are too strange for fiction. This one is terrifyingly real. Then, Jennifer told a nurse something terrifying. She said, "One of us must die, and the other will be free." No one knew what it meant until 1993, when the twins were finally approved for release. On the day they were being transferred from Broadmoor, Jennifer collapsed suddenly. She was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead. No cause was ever fully determined. June later said Jennifer had given up her life for me. After Jennifer's death, June began speaking normally, living freely. It was as if the curse had been broken. But the question remains: what really happened between the two? Was it mental illness, possession, or something else entirely? As teenagers, their isolation deepened. They began writing dark, violent stories. They committed petty crimes together: arson, vandalism, theft. Eventually, the authorities locked them in Broadmoor, a high-security psychiatric hospital known for holding violent criminals and the criminally insane. Inside Broadmoor, their behavior became even more disturbing. They refused to speak to anyone else. They moved in unison. Doctors reported that one twin would not eat unless the other did. Some staff said they could feel a dark presence around the girls. Something wasn't right. Born in 1963 to Caribbean immigrant parents, June and Jennifer were inseparable. But as they grew, their behavior became increasingly bizarre. They created their own secret language. They mirrored each other's movements perfectly. Teachers tried to separate them, but it only made them worse. They shut out the world, living in their own reality. Psychologists called it selective mutism. Others whispered that it was something more, something paranormal. Some believed they shared one mind, or were being haunted by something only they could see. In the quiet town of Haverfordwest, Wales, lived two sisters who would become one of the strangest mysteries of modern psychiatry. June and Jennifer Gibbons were known as the Silent Twins. From an early age, they spoke to no one, not even their parents, only to each other, in whispers, in a language no one else understood. What were they hiding? And what dark force seemed to control their lives? The next story begins. This story will make you speechless. The Hinsdale House is not just haunted, it's alive. Investigators say the house adapts, mimics voices, and targets the weak. Over 50 years later, it remains one of the only haunted homes where an exorcism failed. Clara Dandy later said, "That house was hell disguised as a home." And still today, In the quiet hills of Hinsdale, it waits. In 1974, the family fled the house. They left behind everything: furniture, clothes, even family photos. They never went back. Paranormal teams who visited afterward reported feeling watched, electronics failing, and hearing growls from under the floorboards. Even today, the house is still standing. Tours are allowed, but few stay the night. Those who do often leave with scratches and nightmares. The house never let go of what it took in. Desperate, the Dandies brought in psychic investigators. They described multiple entities, some human, some inhuman. The psychic said the house was built on a Native American curse site and that a ritual sacrifice had occurred on the land centuries ago. One night, the family heard footsteps on the roof, but no one was there. They saw faces in mirrors that didn't belong to them. Their son began speaking in a strange, guttural voice. Something had taken hold of him. Clara screamed that she saw a creature crawling on the ceiling, its eyes glowing red. Things turned violent. The children were scratched in their sleep. Clara reported being choked by unseen hands while she prayed. The family heard chanting in the woods. A phone call came through with no voice, just screams. They contacted a priest. Father Alphonsus Trabold came to bless the house, but after one night, he demanded an emergency exorcism. During the ritual, the walls bled. Voices shouted from thin air. The priest collapsed, gasping. He later said the house was a doorway to something not of this world. But even after the exorcism, the horror did not stop. Shortly after moving in, Clara and Phil Dandy, along with their 4 children, began hearing strange noises. Whispering voices echoed from the woods. Apparitions appeared at the windows. One night, Clara saw a figure floating near a tree in the front yard, its face completely featureless. Lights flickered, cold spots followed them. Then came the scratching in the walls and the growling. At night, the family would wake to find doors wide open and crosses turned upside down. Something was inside the house, and it didn't want them there. In the remote hills of Hinsdale, New York, sits an old white farmhouse. It looks peaceful, but the land it's built on holds something dark, something ancient. When the Dandy family moved into the house in the 1970s, they were looking for a quiet life. What they found was pure terror. This is not just a ghost story. This is the horrifying, true account of the Hinsdale house haunting.